Good evening, friends, and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa. My pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste. My pronouns are she, her.
And tonight we are doing, our, at this point, semi-annual Real Spooky Stories series. We are doing a theme this time. We are doing Civil War Battlefield Real Spooky Stories.
I'm so excited.
This is also our first ever two-parter. We're going to be doing Audrey's stories this week and Megan and Bryce's stories next week. Let's get into it. Before we get too far into it, we're going to actually start with a slight correction from Audrey. She has worked at Civil War battlefields before. She's asked us not to specify on air because people still work there.
Got it.
But she's done a lot of Civil War research, and she is issuing a slight correction. So I'm going to play that real quick.
Hello. Thank you so much for, taking my story to have your podcast. Sorry if you hear other noise in the background. I'm walking around the city here. Kind of on my lunch break here. But I wanted to, first before I kind of got into my story here, make or suggest a minor correction to one of your to what you said in the Manassas podcast, slash Bull Run, which fun fact, today's the anniversary of that. When I'm recording this. But anyway.
She said this a few days ago.
So you mentioned the headless soldier, and I think you pronounced it Zouave or something like that. It's pronounced Zouave. Sometimes Zohov, but most people I hear say Zouave. It's a weird word, and if you've never heard it, which most people would never hear it in daily life, would be, you know, Suave or however you said it, would be kind of a logical way to say it, but it's Zouave. Zoo up there. So yeah, just if for some weird reason it pops up again, it's zoo off.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that.
And she's referring specifically, I think there is a couple of soldiers that had very funky uniforms.
Yeah.
And so that's how you actually pronounce those.
You know what? This is why I put disclaimers on every
Yeah.
single episode that I do, where
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
I
probably
sh-
not pronouncing things.
I probably should start doing that.
But honestly, I'm glad that she said something,
Yeah.
because we always
Yeah.
say, and if
And
you
if
know
you
how to pronounce it,
please send it
please
in.
send
We
it in.
do take it seriously. And if you have an audio note like Audrey does, feel free to send it in as an audio note as well. But again, Audrey worked on site at a Civil War battlefield, and she has a boatload of stories. So here is the first one.
Hi, my name is Audrey, and I worked at a major Civil War battlefield for 5 years. And I didn't believe in ghosts until I worked there. I had some weird experiences beforehand, but I kind of wrote them off. But it would be working there and experiencing the things I did and what my coworkers experienced that would really kind of push me over the edge. Um, but so it was, some things were bigger, some things were smaller. Some, weird sounds, weird things that could kind of maybe get explained away from other things. Um, but kind of just jumping right into it. One of the smaller ones is I remember, so I was in the visitor center. The visitor center is not Civil War era; it's built in the 20th century. Um, but I remember our maintenance crew talking about how they didn't like to be in there. There's something weird about it sometimes. But doesn't matter weird sometimes. And the restrooms are in the basement. And at the end of the day, after we close up, we always have to check the bathrooms. Yes, heaven forbid someone be in them,
Sure.
We don't want to lock them in overnight. So I look at one of my coworkers, and they had gone down and checked the bathroom. And I said to them, "Hey, did you check the women's bathroom?" And they go, "Yeah, of course we did. Of course I did. No big deal." But for some reason, there's this gut thing, this gut feeling I had where I had to keep asking, "Did you check the women's bathroom?" And they're like,
Yeah.
yes, I checked the women's bathroom because you check both. And I don't know what in my head they really insisted you have to, like, did you check the women's bathroom? And so they finally just go, Audrey, why don't you go check the women's bathroom?
Fair.
And so I went downstairs and I checked the women's bathroom and the sink was on.
What the shit?
Which could have just been genuinely like the sink was just left on. Um, but the sink was on. And
Okay.
I went upstairs and asked this person, are you sure you checked the women's bathroom? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's weird.
Have to hit that. Yeah.
I wonder if it was like what kind of sink it was. If it was the kind you have to turn
Oh yeah.
or like automatic.
So that could have
Yeah,
just been that
that's true.
like maybe they thought they
Different
checked the bathroom and they
implications.
Yeah.
didn't. And I don't know. It was weird though. Um, Another kind of smaller instance was I was leaving for the day and I was doing my final checks around the visitor center, and this little kid comes out to me.
Mm.
Couldn't have
Mm.
been any more than 3 years old, itty bitty little kid. And he just is looking, goes, ghosts, ghosts, ghosts on this battlefield, ghosts everywhere. I see ghosts. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, where? And I don't know if I should have said this, but I go, where did you see them, honey? Like, where did you see these? And the parents are just kind of looking at me funny. And the kids like, look at it. I didn't know this kid. I hadn't talked to this kid. I hadn't seen him all day. Um, I never got any more information on that.
All right. So part one. What do you think?
I think it's a little weird.
They escalate.
Okay, I was gonna say I think it can a couple of those could be explained away.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like the sinks at Audrey. Let us know if they were twist sinks or
Or
like automatic sinks.
either way, it's creepy because
Yeah.
if they were automatic sinks, something made them go off,
Yeah.
and if they were turn sinks, something made them turn.
Yeah. There's definitely some things that Audrey talks about that make me think that at least a couple of them are like aware and can respond to things.
As for 3-year-olds, as someone who works with 3-year-olds,
They say all kinds of shit.
if one kid says that their house is haunted, suddenly every single house is haunted with
The
the exact
entire
same
neighborhood.
ghost.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
All right.
I'm less inclined, but at the same time, the babes and the beasts, they're more in tune with ghosties.
They get it a little bit more. But so that's part one.
Okay.
There's a number of parts, so let's get into the next one.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we have a few different annex locations of the battlefield in addition to the main visitor center. And these are oftentimes historic structures.
Mm.
That might not necessarily be from the war, might not be war era, but either A, are still really old, like just built just after the war,
Mm.
or they would have been built on the foundation of the Civil War era building, or maybe with Civil War era materials, like there was a house elsewhere and it's eventually reconstructed where it is now. Um, Maybe there was a part of it that was original but got added on,
Mm.
so on and so forth. But so these annex locations that really have more of our stories, and at least my experiences are going to be mainly in these annex locations. So one of them is quite way far out there, and not a ton of people go to it. It's kind of a little off the beaten track, but I used to work there a lot. I used to get stationed there a lot when I was working at the battlefield, and I am pretty sure that there was somebody else there. The his big thing, that ghost big thing, was just walking around, and I used to joke that he just liked to hang out with us. So you'd hear like footsteps, you'd feel like someone is like watching you.
Oh.
Like you get that really distinct feeling that someone is watching you. And not like in a bad way, it's kind of like, hey, what you doing, sort of thing. But one of the main things, like I said, that he did would be those footsteps. And you'd hear him like walking around upstairs, and you'd hear him, maybe in the other room. The big one is you'd hear him outside. So we had a ramp that would lead up to the visitor center, or to the door, not the visitor center, or to this annex location's front door. And because it's hot, I oftentimes would work during the summer. We'd have the door closed to keep the air conditioning in, but you could hear really distinctly the sound of footsteps on the ramp. And you always knew when a visitor was coming. You were never surprised because you'd hear these footsteps. So we'd be in there working and we'd hear footsteps. We'd hear these footsteps. And whoever I was working with, another ranger, an intern, a volunteer, whoever, we would always like turn and look and wait for the visitor to come in. And every so often, no visitor would come in. And maybe one of us thought like, oh, maybe they think the house is closed. Maybe they think for one reason or another they can't go inside. So, and which was quite common. That would happen a lot. There's thought, oh, I didn't realize you guys, I could like go in there. I just kind of wanted to look.
Mm.
Um, so so you'd go out and say, no, you can come on in. So one of us would go to let the visitor in to say, hey, come on in. And nobody would be there.
Nope.
I knew that. I
Like
knew it.
it'd just be completely empty ramp, completely empty sidewalk. So that was weird about that. And I know that it wasn't just me hearing it because I'd work with other people and we both look. We'd both look up, we'd both, see like hear what we were hearing, but then see nothing. So there's multiple people that are experiencing this at the same time. So yeah, that's one of the locations there.
Oh God.
Yeah. And what gets me is that like all of the buddies participating hear the
Heard
thing and it's in turns of getting ready to summon the person in. Because I've had that sort of you develop your customer service spidey sense or whatever. And if it's ticking off your customer service spidey sense and then suddenly there's not a thing there, oh my God.
I know. This is not that's the same thing, but I remember I used to work at a cupcake shop and there was a like little automatic bell that would go off every time somebody opened the door to get in the shop. And there was, when you were in the back of the shop where the cupcakes were, there was like a camera that would show you the front of the shop to see if anybody came in.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I was working there alone.
Did the bell go and the camera showed nothing? Oh no.
And so there was also this like cabinet that had some like our frozen like ice cream cakes and stuff. And it sometimes people would be on like the other side of the cabinet and you couldn't quite see them on the screen. So I would still go out there just to check to make sure that nobody was just like in a blind spot.
Yeah.
And there'd be nobody there. And I think one time it happened like 3 times that shift where there would be like ding 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 and I'd go out there and there'd be nobody there. And at some point I just went, "Hey, I hear you, but I have to finish these dishes. Can you please stop?" And then it didn't happen for the rest of the shift.
So it's interesting because we'll get into it in a couple stories, but a similar kind of thing happens.
Really?
Yeah. We'll get into it. But the next
But yeah, I
part...
totally forgot about that story until Audrey was talking about it. I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So there was one of our annex locations that is one of our more haunted locations at the park. It is one of our wartime structures, so it was there during the war, and it would have been used as a hospital.
Oh.
It would have been used as a hospital.
No wonder it's haunted.
There would have been some really terrible, gruesome, hard things going on there as the surgeons tried to save the lives of these wounded soldiers. In addition to that, it was engulfed multiple times by fighting. There would have been cannons in the yard. There would have been soldiers all around. We actually have historical record of it being damaged during the war, during the fighting.
Oh.
Now, I admit that a lot of my stories that I have to do with this are secondhand. So I heard them from other rangers, I heard them from volunteers, I heard them from interns, what have you. But I'll be specific with that, just so no one's too confused. So the first one that people would talk about was like footsteps. So much like the other location, you'd hear footsteps. And we had this one volunteer who literally worked this house for decades. She has forgotten more about this house than most of us will ever know.
What a characterization.
So she, I asked her one day, "Hey, have you ever heard footsteps or had any weird experiences in the house?" And she was very nice. She's very polite. This woman does not have a mean bone in her body. But she goes, "Oh no, I haven't experienced anything. Honestly, I don't think there's anything there." And I was going, fair enough. Well, a few weeks later, she comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she goes, "Have you ever heard footsteps in that house?" And I stop and I say, "Yeah, why? Did something happen?" And she kind of looks and she says yes. And she tells me that she was supposed to be working with that house with another volunteer today. And this other volunteer hadn't come yet, so she was going to go open up the house. And so she goes down there, is opening up the house. She's, doing all that. when she hears footsteps on one of the upper levels, and she thinks, oh, the other volunteer must already be here. He must have beat me here.
Regular stuff.
But then she realizes, no, I'm the one unlocking the doors. I'm the one who turned, like, the alarm system off. And that alarm system is motion detected, so if anyone were to leave, like, a little designated area, it would scream louder than the dead.
No shit.
And so she hears it so distinctly, footsteps of someone walking around upstairs.
Oh, gosh.
And that's kind of what tipped her off a little bit, that maybe there's something, and obviously I can't speak for her, but I kind of got the sense that maybe she was being a little more open to the idea that there might be someone else there with her when she works that house.
No kidding.
You know what's fun about that? It really shows that you can be somewhere for such a long time, not experience anything.
And then as soon as you, like, get the little window in, suddenly it's an entire thing.
I wonder how many times she's had experiences like that but brushed it off.
As, like, so,
as
my
normal?
co-volunteer or the whatever.
But she was just more aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do wonder the degree to which a lot of this is, like, you easily write things off because you're just locked into a certain point of view. But as soon as someone says, like, well, maybe it's this other thing.
Exactly.
You see...
That's what
You
I'm
see
getting.
other
That's what
things
it- yeah.
everywhere, like not even just at the location or in the circumstances that it is brought up, but like you see the other thing in like the grocery aisle or
Exactly.
the whatever. When you're doing your rounds at your other weekly routine stuff. But so next up,
Audrey.
Yep.
So one of our other stories from visitors, or from volunteer that is, came when she was working the house by herself. Now the house is 2 stories. It's got a bottom story and an upper story. And the upper story or the second story isn't always open. It's not always open to the public. Sometimes it is, but not always. And it's kind of hit or miss if it's going to be open or not to the visitors. Well, one day, these 2 young men come in and they're all excited to be going to visit this house. To the upper story of this house, because apparently they've been trying to get on the second floor for a really long time. They had, they keep like missing the opportunity to be able to go on the second story. And so they come in and they're telling the visitor, or the volunteer that is, we're so excited to go on the second floor. We've been trying so hard to get up on the second floor. And she apologizes, no, I'm so sorry, but the second floor isn't open today. We're not able to open the second floor today.
No.
And they're really confused because they go, well, there's someone who looked at us from the window. And she's a little perplexed. She's a little confused by this. Because there was nobody upstairs. She was the only person in this house. Now, this house is, when people come and go. If you stand in this one spot in the hallway, you can see all the exits. It's a big house by historical standards, but it's, today it's hard to hide in it. You always kind of know where people are, especially if, you're working the house, keep track of where people are and in order to, help them and give them information and make sure everybody's safe. So she was really confused when these young men, that is, were saying, yeah, there's someone upstairs. And so she's insistent, no, there definitely isn't. And they are very insistent that yes, there definitely is. Well, eventually she gets a little bit more information out of them, and it becomes apparent that they weren't talking about the second story. They were talking about the attic. Now, the attic isn't open to anybody. I worked there for 5 years, and I never went in the attic myself. I can count on one hand the number of times I saw, our maintenance crew to go into the attic to fix the air conditioning. But there's zero reason for anybody to be in that attic. Especially a visitor, and it kind of takes a lot to get there. It's quite a bit of song and dance to get up to the attic there.
Yeah.
So you would know if there's someone up there. So it became, and this woman, she knew what the stories of this place. She had her own experiences in the house, and so she hits her that the ghost must be looking out the window. He must be looking. They must have seen, our resident ghost, and she asked, what did this young man look like? Or what did this, this person look like? They said he was a young guy. They said in his early 20s, Caucasian. He was brunette. So I guess we have some kind of account of what he looks like.
I don't like that.
I don't like that at all.
And they didn't. I'm guessing they didn't check. I wouldn't check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not alone anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's at least a call to maintenance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did somebody have to go up? But, like, also, I guess their ghost is brunette in that one.
White
A guy with
a
brown
white guy
hair.
with brown hair.
Yeah.
You know what? And if Civil War like mustache, I'm sure looks the same as modern day. Some old fashions.
If you heard something drop, that was my headphone case. But yeah.
Oh, I had a horrified look on my face
Yes,
for like
the
this
entire time.
As soon
Yeah.
as she said the attic, I was like, oh.
But on we go. We have a few more from Audrey.
Oh.
And they just keep escalating.
Oh my god.
So, my spooky experiences with that house started day one. I was a brand spanking new ranger, and it was my very first time being assigned to work this house. So I go there, and I enter into the basement. You have to enter and exit through the basement of this house. So you enter into the basement, and I walk across, and I am just focused on punching in my alarm code correctly. If you didn't punch your code in correctly, like, an alarm would sound, it'd be a whole hoopla. And I am really bad at remembering numbers. So I was really, really, really worried about remembering my alarm code.
Relatable.
So I just kept, as I was walking across this basement to get to the keypad, all I was thinking about was, like, my alarm code. And, like, making sure I had it memorized correctly. So I go across, punch the code in, did it correct, thank goodness. And I'm just, breathing that sigh of relief when I feel something come right up behind me. You know that feeling when someone is, like, standing super, super close behind you, like, so close behind you, that they're not touching you, but, if they lean forward just a little bit, they're gonna be? That's what it felt like. It felt like someone was metaphorically breathing down the back of my neck.
I don't like that.
But it was such a strong feeling, I thought a visitor has snuck in behind me.
Oh my god.
Now, visitors weren't allowed down to the basement. They're so curious about what's down there. It's nothing interesting. It's just like, security systems and our fire systems and stuff like that. Not to mention, the ceilings are only slightly taller than I am, and I'm only 5'2".
Oh.
So most of the population would struggle with being in that basement. But so I think a visitor snuck in behind me. And so I turn around to ask them to step out of the basement, tell them I'll let them in on the main level in just a second, let me get the house all set up. When I turn around, there's nobody there. Not a soul, it's just me in that basement. Oh. I kind of, shake it off a little bit. I kind of think, I don't like basements. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of basements. And I knew the gruesome, horrible things that had happened in that house. And so I just kind of thought, Audrey, this is just a recipe for you getting spooked. And maybe it was. Maybe it was. Maybe I was just kind of getting into my own head there a little bit. With, working there for the first time, being in an environment that is, has this gruesome history, being in an environment that I just, for some reason, I'm not a fan of. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But kind of as I continued my career there and kept working the house and kept having my weird experiences, I wonder if that was, just whoever is chilling there. I wonder if that was, whoever's there, checking out the new person, being like, who's this new guy or a new gal coming in, and who's this new person coming in and working the spot? Who's this new member of staff? Sort of thing.
Initiation, welcome committee.
What a way to welcome one in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But hey, still clocked in for work the next day.
Yeah, no kidding. And that was what day one incident was?
Yes.
And she came back 5 years?
Exactly. Obviously, she's made it in, freaking, I don't say gut of steel, but you know what I mean.
Probably guts of steel if she came back for 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so that is the same thing.
Yeah. Oh. But wait, there's more.
So, we used to always joke that this whoever was in that house, this ghost, was a stickler for the rules. A couple of us would joke that he must have been an officer who was just an absolute stickler for the rules, because it seems that so often when things happened, It's when whoever was working the house is doing something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Oh.
I had one ranger friend who was convinced that he would, like, knock things on the wall and make noises if she was on her phone too long.
Maybe get off your own.
So one thing he really didn't seem to like us doing was letting visitors stay late in this house. Now, this next story is a bit of hearsay. It's my friend, or one of my other coworkers who was there when I got there. She told it to some other new members of staff, who then told it to me. So it's kind of, game of telephone here. But she told them that one day she was working the house and a family comes in right before closing time. Family comes in right before closing time, and they are being very nice, they're being very respectful. So she says, hey, I don't want to kick you guys out. You're clearly, like, enjoying the house. You're, like, really looking to learn. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to do the closing procedures real quick. You just keep doing what you're doing, and we can all walk out together. Now, the closing procedures for the upper level take, like, 30 seconds. They are super easy. They don't take long. She's doing this, and she goes up to do these closing procedures. The closing procedures themselves go without a hitch, and she's ushering the people out when she's done, when she hears a massive crash upstairs. Now, she's concerned about this. This is an old house. So she goes upstairs to look. Now, this house kind of set up. It's got 2 windows on either side at the on the second story of either side of this long, 15, 20-foot long hallway. Now, the stairs come up on one end of the hallway. Come up on the extreme end of one end of the hallway. Now, the windows, they're old, they're historic, they've got quite a bit of age on them, so they don't stay up on their own anymore. So we prop them up with, they look like yardsticks that we've just kind of trimmed up a little bit, So we've got these sticks, right, that will prop the windows up to get ventilation going through the house. So we go upstairs. So she goes upstairs to check out what that noise was, what that crash was. And she doesn't have to go very far because at the top of the stairs was the stick from the opposite window.
No.
This thing would have had to fly like 15 feet.
Oh my God.
On its own. Now, she's a little spooked, but she takes the stick, goes, puts it back, gets the family out of the house, and continues to work there, continues to go about her career there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah. And it hadn't registered to me.
It was from the opposite window?
Yeah. The first time. And it hadn't registered to me the distance. For some reason, I thought it was some sort of adjacent room situation. But, holy shit, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah.
unsettling.
Yeah.
Unsettling.
But this next one is, I think, one of my favorites.
All right, well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward to my first summer there. I have the exact same thing happen to me. I have a family come in at, right before closing. They're being very polite, very respectful. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing in terms of respecting, the house and the history. I don't want to kick them out early. I don't want to kick them out earlier than I have to. So I say to them, hey, if you guys just want to hang out downstairs, I'm going to quick go upstairs and do the closing procedures, and we can all leave together. So I go upstairs, I'm doing the closing procedures, and when I remember the story that I was told, I don't know what possessed me to do this. I don't know where I got the courage to do this, but I just remember stopping at the top of the stairs as I'm going down, looking into, just looking into the rooms in the hallway and saying, don't be stupid. It's rude to throw things.
Iconic.
I go downstairs, I leave without incident.
Hooray.
Oh my gosh.
The next day I'm off, and I get a phone call from one of my coworkers. And from one of my coworkers, and she calls me up, and you can tell she's spooked.
Uh-oh.
And sometimes the house would just feel spooky. There's a group of us one summer, they used to ask, hey, how does the house feel today? And they're asking, does it feel spooky or not? And so she calls me, she goes, Audrey, it's a really spooky day.
Oh, dear.
And I go, oh, is it I'm so sorry, that can be really, unnerving when it feels like that and you're in that house by yourself for hours on end. And she asked me, Audrey, where did you leave the stick last night? And I tell her, like, I left it on the windowsill where we always leave it. And she goes, it was at the top of the stairs when I got here.
Oh no.
I think that's weird. And I was insistent, like, no, I definitely left it. Definitely left it on the windowsill. I never brought it any further than that windowsill. But she was insistent that that stick was at the top of the stairs, 15 feet from where I left it the next day when she arrived. So we're continuing on this conversation. We're continuing talking when she stops and goes, Audrey, I heard a crash upstairs.
Oh no.
I think the window fell off the stick.
Oh no.
And I'm panicking, like, oh my gosh, like, okay. She goes, what do I do? And I go, you go check. Like, you go check that window. Like, that window's, that window is like, original to the house. It's whatever. You have to go, you got to go check this window. So she goes upstairs to check the window, only makes it about halfway up the stairs before some visitors come in. But she sees, like, the far window, the one she only propped one open that day. She sees the far window propped up and she goes, okay, like, it's fine. I don't know what I heard, but it's fine. It's still on the stick. It's good. So she goes back downstairs, goes about her day. Nothing happens. Well, when she's closing up that night, she found the stick from, I believe it was the window or this top of the stairs side had been thrown across the room.
Damn it.
That's a petty ghost.
No kidding.
That's a petty ass ghost.
No kidding. I do have to wonder if, like, who it is that's been tossing this about, though.
Is it that white guy from the attic? It's an officer. I wonder how many spirits.
Yeah, I mean, it's
hunting.
one of the bigger battlefields.
Exactly.
So it's one of the ones where there's at least 5,000 opportunities.
Wasn't this the building that was used as a hospital?
I thought this was a different one.
Oh, okay.
I will. Okay, at editing, Lisa text Audrey and put in her response here.
I just also have to paying better attention probably because there's lots of stories. But okay, well, so there could be multiple ghosts. It doesn't have to be the same person.
Yeah, and again, this is one of the battlefields where there's, I think minimum 10,000 options for who it could be. Because it's one of the battlefields where there are tens of thousands of casualties
in the Civil War.
But yeah, and we're gonna go a little bit through Audrey's final story because, spoiler not spoilers, this one is the one that freaked me out a little bit.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this house when you worked it is you knew when something else was there. You knew when the ghost, or some people thought there were multiple ghosts, or when the ghosts were there. I remember there was one time I walked upstairs. I was doing the opening procedures, and I was on the phone with my mom. And I was doing the opening procedures, and I kind of, like, go upstairs, and I turn the corner around the stair, like, at the top of the stairs there, and I hear, and I don't hear anything, but, like, I don't see anything, but every fiber of my being is telling me, you are not alone.
Oh, no.
Every cell in my body is screaming, there's someone else here. You are not by yourself up here. There's someone else in this house with you.
You know when that
And I knew I was the only one in the house, much like that one volunteer, is I had done the unlocking procedures. I had set, like, I turned off the alarm myself. Like, I very much was the only person in that house, but every fiber of my being was saying it's not true. And I just froze there, literally froze there, hand on the banister for these stairs. And my mom's on the other end of the phone, like, wondering if I'm still there, trying to get my attention, because I stopped talking. I just stopped paying attention to her. And I didn't really know what to do, so I just kind of continued doing the opening procedures, because, like,
what you gotta do.
I've got a job to do. I've got to open up the house. I got to let visitors in. Like, this is my job. This is my work. This isn't going to stop me from doing my job. That's kind of the attitude that most of us took with this, is if there's anything here, we still have a job to do. We still have to, talk to visitors. We still, our job is still to explain the history of the site. Like, the rationale I took is I'm not going to let this get in the way of me doing my job, a job that I thought then, and I still think now, was incredibly, incredibly important, to tell the history of the site and the history of the people there. My last story is kind of going to come one of my last summers working there.
And I'm in this house and I'm working in with one of our volunteers. And we're swapping stories, all that. And she says to me, or I say to her, you know, I'm not afraid of them being here. I know they're here. I don't like that when I'm in this house and they're here, I don't know exactly where they are. And I kind of chalk that up to, you know, being a woman, we're taught and we're trained our entire lives to be aware of where people are, to be aware of, you know, who's where, who's doing what sort of thing, just, you know, for our own safety and protection. And so the volunteer goes, you know, actually that's really, you know, it's natural to want to know where they are, to be unnerved that you can't pinpoint where exactly in the house they are, what have you. Yeah, so, you know, we chat for a little bit longer when she tells me she's got to go to the bathroom. This house doesn't have indoor plumbing, so you have to go back to the main visitor center to use the restroom. So she gets in her car or whatever she does and she drives away. And I'm sitting there in the house and I'm just kind of, you know, waiting for the next round of visitors to come. When all of a sudden I hear 3 distinct, but not like hard or angry, just 3 distinct taps. And I have the weirdest way of explaining it, so bear with me. It sounded like fingernails on glass. Ooh. These 3 taps did. And it didn't, like I said, it didn't sound angry. It didn't sound, you know, aggressive. It kind of reminded me of, like, you know, when someone's office door is open, and you want to go talk to them, but you don't want to surprise them. You don't want to, like, just burst in. So you kind of, like, linger in the doorway and do a little, like, tap with your knuckle. And they're like, hey, I'm here, sort of thing. That's what it sounded like to me. Huh. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, it's in the exhibit room. Someone's in the exhibit room. We had this exhibit room up front. Visitors could go around most of the house, but we had this one exhibit room that's kind of, like, roped off that they weren't allowed to go into. They could, like, the whole point is that it's set up like a historic dining room. So I think, oh my gosh, someone's in the exhibit room. And then I think, no, Audrey, you're the only one in this house. That's all roped up. No one ever tries to go in there. Someone must be trying to get through the front door. Now, it had been really hot that day, so we had the doors closed. But the doors are really heavy. So it was not uncommon for visitors to think, oh my gosh, the house is closed. The house is locked. It's closed. We can't go in today. And so I went and I thought I gotta go let these visitors in. So I opened up the front door and there's nobody there. Now this house is in the middle of a field. You can see in every direction for at least half a mile. And I thought, oh my gosh, I took too long. They're walking back thinking the house is closed. Let me go get them. So I exit the house. I'm just like steps outside the door there. And there's nobody there. I circle the house. I can see the entire parking lot. There's nobody in the parking lot. There's nobody in the fields around this house. There's nobody near the yard. Like I said, I did a complete circle of this house. And there is nobody anywhere. And I think, oh, that's really weird. Maybe like something in the house rattled. So I go in and I start recreating this sound. Trying to recreate this sound, that is. I'm like knocking things around, things that are usually the things. I've worked in this house for years at this point. I know what rattles, I know what shakes, I know what it sounds like. It didn't sound like anything, but I thought, maybe I'm like thinking weird. I'm rattling things, I'm knocking things, whatever. And I'm not getting, and I am able to replicate that sound perfectly. But it's when I tap my fingernails on the glass in the windows.
No.
So, you know, I'm a little freaked out at this point, and some visitors come, and eventually the volunteer comes back. And the volunteer gets back, I tell her about what had happened. And she goes, oh, well, you know what happened, right? And I go, like, no. And she goes, you expressed that you didn't like not knowing where in the house they were. When you were by yourself, he told you where he was. And I sat there and I kind of like hit me. He's like, oh my gosh, yeah, he was in the exhibit room. And the exhibit room's a room that always feels a little spooky. He was in the exhibit room and he told me he was in the exhibit room. So it was weird. It was freaky.
Oh my God. Also romantic? Date the ghost?
Okay, that is a genre of romance that I don't want to get into. Uh, but
That's so freaky.
but it's like that's the one that freaks me out the most because it's like, okay,
They're
clearly
listening.
and figured out a
And
way to respond.
conscious.
Figured out a way to respond, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
which is-
there's a theory that ghosts are just the reflections of things that have already happened, that they don't have consciousness, that it's literally just like imprint. This disproves that.
Yeah, because and maybe this is me reading too much into it, but they did the like announce yourself tip tap,
Yeah,
right? The like because she said it was like, okay, it's that same sort of impression if you're like
If
trying
you-
to announce yourself to someone whose door is already open.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that freaks me out so much.
Oh my
It's so
gosh.
good.
And I do like that her first instinct was, oh, it's the exhibit room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she kind of psyched herself out of that.
Yeah.
But theoretically, she knew where he was.
Yeah. Because everyone knew. Everyone kind of had the impulse.
Oh.
But that's Audrey's stories.
Those Oh my god. I love the build-up that she
Yes.
does. She's a very good storyteller.
Yeah,
Makes
she
sense.
is
She
amazing.
is.
Surprise! It's a two-parter. The next part will be out next week, so a little bit earlier than you might otherwise be thinking. If you want to get in touch with the show, follow us on Instagram at drearymidnightpod. Send us an email if you have a story of your own, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support us with money, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/drearymidnight. With all that said, be careful of what you announce and to whom. You don't know who's listening. And safe travels home on this dreary midnight. Good night.